Okay. I think I'm finally live. So if you will give me just a second, I'm going to share the link in Patreon and on the doobity doo, the hoobity hoobity, the flibbity flibbity, all those things. Hang on 1 second. Just bear with me. I say there's like 3 people watching now, so I got a huge audience going. Okay, one more thing. It's still showing me the ad on here. All right, 1 second. This is what you got on here for, to just kind of hear me mumble and hum along to nothing. All right, 1 second here. Okay. If anybody is watching, oh, there's Sean. Hey, man. I was about to say, chime in the live chat if you're here, which Sean just did. So thank you. Hang on. I know this is super exciting. Okay, so I've shared it in Patreon. I've shared it in the community tab for the members, and so yeah, I guess we're good to go. As usual, there's no real plan here in my life or on Patreon for this. So hey, John, good evening to you too. So if you guys have questions, if you want to talk about previous videos that have come out, if you have questions about those videos, if you want to tell me I'm wrong about them, feel free to do so. This is a good chance to do that. Otherwise, I just got back from VidCon yesterday. Still kind of readjusting and everything, so I could talk about that whole experience because it was kind of interesting. I got to meet a lot of cool people. That I got to meet some of my YouTube heroes, and they talked back to me, so that was exciting. And I feel bad because there was one guy the entire time that I was there that recognized me. One fan, if you want to use that word. And he happened to catch me like just as I got on the phone with my wife. so I was like, oh, what? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I got to take that, and I could tell that he like wanted to like have a conversation with me, and I totally would have if it wasn't for the fact that I was on the phone. So the one guy that recognized me, I feel like I was really rude to him, but sorry, whoever you are out there, you were very nice, and I apologize. So Sean is asking if I'm going to be watching Tim tonight. Yeah, I think he already pushed it back once. I saw it was supposed to start earlier, like 6 o'clock or so, and now it's like 10 or 9 or 10 or something like that. But no, I plan on watching that. And then also tonight is a live stream of a Neuralink announcement, which I'm definitely going to want to check out. They kind of teased this on their Twitter recently. I've been looking for some new Neuralink news for a while now. I go on Our Ludicrous Future, and Tim's got his Tesla thing, Ben's got his Tesla thing, Tim's got his SpaceX, thing. Or Rockets thing, and I'm kind of like everything else in jokes maybe. So I'm always like looking for something to talk about in terms of Neuralink or the Boring Company or any of those other Muskian things. Of course, I'm always also trying to like step outside of the Musk thing. shouldn't all be Elon Musk, or else we should just call ourselves the Three Musketeers, which has been floated around, but that's not my plan. So I am calling this the whiskey live stream. On Saturday, I will have a coffee. No, actually, this Saturday, I've got the video chat for the $10 and up people. Next Saturday is the coffee live stream, because that's in the morning. This one's in the evening, and I'm so clever. But I did bring some whiskey if you guys are partaking. It hasn't really mixed in very much. It's like all at the top there. I am more of a whiskey guy. I've gotten people get in the comments and they're like, I would love to have a beer with you, and I'm like, I wouldn't like it because I don't like beer. Or you? No, I'm mostly just beer. But I will have whiskey with people though. That's my thing. So Josh Elbert says hi. Hey, Josh. I think you've been a member for a while because your badge is like almost completely filled out. So, thank you for that. Nathan says hi. Hello, Nathan. Sean says I'm superior to the rest. I don't know about that. I don't know which rest you're talking about, but John says I'm not pigeonholed. That's a good thing. I agree. I was actually explaining to somebody while I was at VidCon about the whole Random Thursday thing. Like, why do I do videos on random topics? And it's like, I just don't want to. I find a lot of things interesting in this world, and I don't want to just talk about specific, science stuff just because that's what people want to hear. I like to kind of branch out from that a little bit. And what's funny is I looked at this, I think maybe 5 or 6, it might actually be a majority of the top 10 most viewed videos on my channel are Random Thursday videos. So I don't I don't know what that's about. Maybe I just kind of fall into the understanding, or the mindset that if I find something interesting, then you guys will find something interesting. If nothing else, I say you guys, but I mean like the general public, like people who watch my channel. I think they watch it because we're sort of, on the same wavelength. So if I find something interesting and I want to talk about it, I go ahead and do a video about it. Hence male lactation. I just ran across that somewhere and was like, okay, this is insane. I need to talk about this. And that video did not do very well. It did get monetized though. And I've made a joke at the end that it was totally not going to be monetized. And it actually did. It just didn't get a whole lot of views, but oh well. Nathan says, if you were to spend the next 30 years studying one topic, oh jeez, what would it be and why? So you can learn a lot in 30 years, and you can affect a lot of, you can become an expert and maybe even increase the field in that time. Honestly, I think I would want to study cancer. I don't know. I mean, I feel like if I was going to dedicate 30 years of my life to something, it should be something that could actually like help people, or at least give some peace of mind to people about not having to worry all the time about cancer. And speaking of that, so I was in California, and I don't know how many of you may live in California or have been there, but and I don't know what law this was that got passed. I'm sure somebody out there knows, but there was a law passed at some point that basically if a business or an establishment serves any kind of substance, whether it's alcohol or coffee or whatever, that has some kind of carcinogenic substance in it, then you have to have a plaque up on your wall that says this, establishment serves this thing that has all this cancer in it. And I think I did a really crap job of recording and vlogging my VidCon experience. There was something that I recorded, but I don't think I've actually even put it out yet, where I talked about this, where it bothers me because, I mean, you go to Starbucks, literally, and there's a plaque on the wall saying this place serves things that'll give you cancer, and I'm like, coffee, really? And yeah, I'm sure there are some trace chemical elements of what's in coffee that can cause cancer growth in lab rats if you feed them 10 trillion times the amount that a normal human would ever consume. I'm sure that's true. But my problem with it is that when you put a danger label on everything, you start to just ignore it. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And that's kind of how I felt just being there for a few days. I kept seeing it everywhere. It's like, that has no effect on me now, because I know it's just whatever. It's BS. And like, I totally agree it should be on cigarette packs, because the correlation is very clear on that. But there's also anything anything that has just a tiny little amount of stuff in it is going to eventually have something in it that could, too much of it would hurt you in one way or another. I don't know. It's just, if you put a warning label on everything, then you might as well not put a warning label on anything, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. I've had this discussion with my wife, who is an artist, that I feel like if anything is art, then nothing is art. I always go back to, there's a museum in Fort Worth. It's called the Fort Worth Modern, and it's a modern art museum, and it will mess with your mind, because it's literally like one of these things where you'll see a piece of paper crumpled up on the wall. Oh, that's art, stuff like that. And I remember I walked up to this one installation, and it was a line from the ceiling to the floor, and I stood there for a solid couple of minutes trying to figure out what this was all about. I was like, is this like the line between heaven and hell? Is this like the demarcation of people's, minds or whatever? Like, I just sat there trying to figure out the symbolism of this line, and then I started looking around for the little tag that would describe it and say with the name of it, and I couldn't find it. And then I realized it was just a seam in the wall. It was just that was where two walls connected, and so that's my point. If everything is art, then nothing is art. If everything is cancer, then nothing is cancer, and it doesn't mean anything. And Alan is explaining that it's in the roasting process that basically anything that burns causes cancer, or stuff comes out of the, yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I still think if you put a warning label on everything, it just doesn't mean anything to anybody anymore. Anyway, hang on, I got a couple of comments here in Patreon. If you are watching this on the Patreon page, and you're commenting on there, I would invite you to click on the video, and right up at the very top, well, actually at the very bottom where it says YouTube, along the bottom by the line, whatever you want to call it, timeline. If you click on where it says YouTube, it'll actually take you to the YouTube page, and then you can like participate in the chat room where everybody else is. I see Victoria in there, so Victoria, I would do that if I were you, please. Okay. Troy is saying he saw the same thing in a coffee shop and wondered what could possibly qualify for that kind of warning. Well, there you go. I'm sure there is some chemical, again, like a trace element of that chemical that comes out. Anyway. Usually I see stuff like that, and I'm like, well, I guess they've got their reasons for it, but it seems to be only a California thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe there's another state that does it, but they certainly don't have it here. Anyway. Sean saying he's waiting for oatmeal to be labeled as cancer-causing. I love the time that we live in here where literally everything causes cancer and everything cures it. Fun times we live in, people. Anyway, Andrew Hendricks says, hey, everyone. Hello, Andrew. You guys think of some questions or thoughts, stuff that you want to share, and I will jump on those. But while you're doing that, I guess I could talk about the trip to VidCon that I got to go on, because it was interesting. For those who aren't familiar, this is the fourth time that I've been. I had skipped last year, but I went 3 years before that. And every time I go to VidCon, it's I discover some new level that I didn't know was there before. And the way VidCon ended the last time I went was I was with some friends of mine named JP and Julia. They're from a channel called Healthy Junk Food. And they do like the things where it's like the biggest pizza in the world kind of stuff. And at the time, I think they had just hit a million, or maybe they were just really close to a million subscribers. Right now they're like well over 2 million subscribers, so they're huge. And I only got to see, well, I'll get to that in a second, but I basically was hanging out with them the last time, and they were already like these sort of big stars. They were with a network, they were able to get into certain parties and stuff like that, and they kind of got me into some parties that I wasn't supposed to get to. So when you're there, you got this lanyard that kind of gets you into specific seminars and stuff like that, areas. And then I started seeing people with these wristbands. Start seeing people with all these little wristbands. Well, it turns out that there's like all these special rooms that are outside of the convention center in hotels, where if you know the right people, you can get in there. And it's totally it's not something you can buy. It's something you have to just earn through relationships or through being like a featured creator or something like that. And some of these places were just kind of like lounges, and you could go in and take free swag and have a drink or something. And then Saturday night, the last night that I was there was a big, huge party that I just kind of weaseled into. And it was funny. There was the girl at the little desk that was, checking everybody's wristbands, and I didn't have one, but I was with them, and they had them. And so, like, we walk up there, and she's like, "I'm sorry, you don't have the wristband." I was like, "But I'm with them." And she's like, "Yeah, but you need to have a wristband." I'm like, "Well, where do I get a wristband?" She's like, "Well, here." And I was like, "Well, can I have one?" And she's like, "Well, no, you have to blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "But I'm with them." And I could see on their face, she was just like, "It's not worth it having this fight." So she's like, "Fine." And she's like, threw it on me. And I was like, and I walked off, feeling terrible about it. But no, I got into this party, and like, there were all these huge YouTubers there that I got to hang out with, and I got to meet. I got to talk to John Green. I got to talk to Hank Green. There were a couple of like legit celebrities there. Her name is what is it, Melania Vaintraub? She's the AT&T girl, but she's also done lots of other stuff. Anyway, she was there. I got to talk to her. It was like that was the last moment that I had at the last VidCon that I went to. It was this huge party where I was like hanging out with big time celebrities and stuff, and YouTube, stars. So I was going back this year kind of thinking maybe I could kind of equal that, but then it wound up like not really doing that. Because the group that I'm with was I'm with a group right now. It's called Standard Broadcast, and if you want to go see what other creators are part of this group, you can go to standard.tv. And they basically had their own house. And this is actually something that a lot of these groups do, is they get houses and all the creators just kind of like hang out in the house. It's like some kind of MTV show or something. I mean, they don't film it, but you get the idea. TubeBuddy, which is a sort of a YouTube plug-in, had a house. vidIQ had a house. And I knew people in both of those, so I got to kind of go hang out there. But the long story short is, I spent very, very, very little time at actual VidCon this year. I spent most of my time hanging out in these side venues in people's houses, just because I had known them for so long, and because I was part of that Standard group. And so I spent, Friday night at the Standard house. And by the way, if I had made up my mind earlier, I would have been able to just stay at that house, probably for free. But I literally didn't make up my mind to go to this until like 2 weeks ago, so that's what you get. So I paid for a hotel room, whatever. But no, so I went to this barbecue, and my God, I got to meet so many people. Let me just even try to go down. Real Life Lore, I played a game with him and several other people. The guy from Wendover Productions, I think, was there. See, here was the deal. Here was the problem. Is that a lot of the creators on here, on this channel or on this network, they don't put their faces on screen. Like I'm like the personality or whatever, Most of them don't do that. Most of them are like animations, and then you hear their voices talking over it. Like Real Life Lore, half as interesting. Wendover, what are some others? I should probably just pull it up. Oh, Polyphonic, which is a music channel that's actually really good, and I've fallen down some serious rabbit holes on his stuff. But anyway, there's a lot of these creators that, CGP Grey is a good example of that. Kurzgesagt, the German guy, I got to meet all those guys. I shook CGP Gray's hand and he started talking, and I was like, that is, I have heard this voice so many times and it's now coming out of a face. That was the weirdest experience. And he sounds exactly like he does in his videos. It was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. But he's also like super protective of his image. Like he doesn't ever want people to know what he actually looks like. He likes his anonymity. So it was kind of like, oh, like somebody had to point him out to me. Oh yeah, that's Gray over there. It's like, oh, okay. And apparently that's what he goes by. Is Gray. Everybody calls him Gray. What his actual name is, I guess it's CGP or his initials. Like that's what they were saying. It's like he just goes by that. So anyway, so I got to meet all those guys, and at one point we were playing a game. This was actually the next night. I came the next night, and I'm just telling stories right now, guys. If you have questions and stuff, I'll chat with you in just a second. But anyway, I went and played a game with all these guys. I didn't make up this game. It's called Secret Hitler. I don't know where it comes from or anything, but it's like this political game where like there's half the table are fascists and the other half are liberals, which I don't know why nobody made it up. It's an actual game, but anyway. And then there's like one person at the table who is Hitler, and you have to kind of like figure out who is on what team basically, and ultimately you have to figure out who is Hitler by the end of the game. I would describe it better, but I can't because I barely understood what was going on. And they tried to explain. I mean, they literally took like 10 minutes explaining the game to me before they started playing, and I was still just like, I got no idea what's going on here. But what was bizarre about it was a table of 9, maybe 10 people, and they all had these YouTube channels I've been watching for years, and none of them show their faces. So I was playing this game, and I was just constantly hearing the voices of all these different YouTube channels that I watch coming out of people's faces, and I was getting all confused, and I didn't know their actual names. I just knew them by their voices and their channel, so I was like calling them by their channel name, which is really weird. So the point of this game is like you're supposed to lie, and you're supposed to like figure out who's lying about being what. And I'm sitting here like, not only do I not know these guys' names, but I don't know their names, but I do know their voices, but I don't really know anything about their personalities. So I was just like totally at a loss. But anyway, it was fun. The point is I got to meet a lot of really, really big YouTubers, and it's funny that somebody, when I was saying that yesterday, they were like immediately, did you set up a collab with them? And I'm like, no. I got to know them, and now I might reach out to them and do a collab with them or something. There's the percentage of me doing a collab with some of these guys went through the roof after I met them, but it certainly wasn't going to be like the first thing out of my mouth. We should do a collab together. Come on. And I also didn't take any video or pictures while I was there, because again, a lot of these guys, the reason they don't put their faces out there is they, appreciate their anonymity. And also I looked around and nobody else was doing it, and I didn't want to be the one douche with my camera out, ruining the party. So anyway, it was just a very interesting trip in that I found out that I think maybe the ultimate level of VidCon is actually not going to VidCon and hanging out at a house with a bunch of big YouTubers who also don't give a crap about YouTube or about VidCon. Anyway, all right. So Joel asked, have I done a video about AI and automation? I mean, yeah. I think I've covered different aspects of that. I don't know that I've ever done one specifically on. Well, yes, I have covered that territory in different videos, but I don't know if that's covering exactly what you're asking about. I do have one on the way that's probably next Monday's video that I did a video called The Dark Side of the Singularity that was all about how like automation is taking away jobs and how we are going to probably hit some kind of a labor crisis, and what are some of the solutions around that, or are there any solutions? Are we kind of heading toward, some dark days, typical pleasant stuff like I talk about. But no, next Monday's video, I'm going to go ahead and do one on, what is it? Universal income, universal basic income. which I kind of wish I'd covered this before now, because now it really is a very politicized topic, because there's a Democratic nominee that's arguing for this. It didn't used to necessarily be political. I think there's a certain political persuasion of people who are not going to ever be for an idea like this, but now it is highly political because there's somebody actually talking about it in the debates and stuff. But obviously, I'm going to cover it from all sides as well as I can. I mean, I'm not completely sold on it just yet. I'm only getting started in the research right now, but I think it's an interesting idea, and I think there's some other interesting ideas out there that I'm also going to touch on. But that kind of ties into automation and AI and what that's bringing about and whatnot. While I'm thinking about it, by the way, there's actually not going to be a Thursday video this week. We can blame VidCon for that. It's also partly because it was going to be a sponsored video, and that sponsorship has now sort of fallen through. Standard is no longer working with a sponsor, so that sponsorship went away. And if I hadn't been at VidCon, I'm sure I would be in good shape to go ahead and put it out, but I had a few days taken up and didn't quite get there. It's coming. It's on its way, but I think it would just be safer to push it back. And besides, I think I'm going to do a big live stream either on Thursday or Friday to celebrate a little something. And I'll let you all just kind of guess what that is. I'm sure you are well aware. And I was also thinking about maybe doing a live stream, and you guys tell me what you think of this, but a live stream of the Apollo 11 anniversary, which is on the 20th. The landing anniversary is on the 20th. And I think that somewhere out there is like this real-time Apollo reconstruction thing that you can kind of like watch an animation of it happening just like it did. And I think it'd be kind of cool to stream that, and we could all watch that together. That's a thought. Haven't decided on it yet. But anyway, there's things coming this week that will kind of take the place of my Thursday video. Anyway, I've been talking and missed out on some stuff here. Alan is holding up his end of the whiskey stream. There you go. Cheers to you, sir. Could there eventually be a quantum entangle haptic suit? Does that mean like a suit where you can feel something that's happening to somebody else because they're also wearing a suit and it's quantum entangled? It's a little creepy. You know the porn sites will be all over that. I don't think you have to be quantum enabled necessarily, or quantum entanglement enabled. I think that's something that could just be, the Internet of Things kind of deal. I would not be surprised if that was around the corner. I could totally see people doing that. Troy asked, has there been any talk about the experiment with entangled particles, one of which would be on the ISS, for instance? Do we have equipment ready for that type of experiment? I need to follow up on that. They were talking about, I think China had a satellite that was doing some quantum entanglement, from space things going on. And there might have been one on the ISS as well. I don't know. I have to look into that. That's a good question. Actually, one good thing that does come out of these live streams is you guys give me some great ideas. Okay. Wrote that one down. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Sean's computer crashed. It couldn't handle my awesomeness. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I put too much awesomeness in your computer and it just went belly up. Alan says the problem with Patreon is that the trolls never pay to be in here, so the chat is super chill. And I'm with Joshua. Why is that a problem? The channel is at the size now that if I just did a regular live stream, you get all kinds of Nazis and crazy people on the chat. It's a lovely time, which means I need to have some moderators now. And Troy wants to volunteer to be a problem. Go for it. Okay. Joshua saying that you prefer YouTubers to show their face, feels more personal. It's just a different kind of content. I agree. I mean, there are some people that I think you connect to the animated stuff just in a different way than you connect with, like, say, what I do, And which is why I think it's important for me to kind of go off the cuff every once in a while and kind of just do something. I mean, maybe that's what Random Thursday is a little bit about. It just kind of like, it kind of puts me out there a little bit more, and I feel like that's what you guys sort of connect with. So, um, again, it just kind of depends on what kind of stuff you're doing, and I guess mine is that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Um, wondering when the day will come where persons like myself who write test automation will be out of a job when AI starts writing test cases. I don't know anything about that, and whether or not it's something that a computer could do. I know there's a lot of positions that people used to think AI would never take over, sometimes more creative or legal or medical, and they're starting to kind of get taken over. So I don't think anybody's safe, and I know that sounds catastrophizing, but yeah. Now we're asking how old everybody is. I'm going back a little bit here. 32, 45, 40 something, 37, 30. Yeah, my when I look at my demographics, it's I think between 20 and 34 is the highest in my general demographics, and I think the other side of that is the second highest, and then it goes back to like 18 to 25 or whatever. I got that little bell curve in the let's say the 30s. I think that's about where it usually falls. And Russell knows who Lane Meyer is. Did you see my Instagram post? You have to let me know if you saw my Instagram post, because that blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. If you didn't, just say you didn't, and I'll tell the story. But let's see. More like a way to communicate through quantum entanglement faster than light across the galaxy. Okay. Troy saying, you remember I mentioned it a while back, and I don't know what you're referring to. Oh, the AI stuff. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm kind of like I'm looking at the things in reverse there. So, let's see. What else can I talk about? My Cold Fusion video has done really well for some reason. It's it's already at 200,000 views in less than 48 hours. I don't know why, but Google really likes when I talk about Fusion stuff, anything with Fusion in it. By the way, something I learned, this is kind of inside baseball stuff, but something I learned on at VidCon, actually from a guy that I used to work with, is that, okay, so when I post my videos, it's the thumbnail and the title, right? Like that's what gets people to click and watch on the video. And there's always been this debate on me, or for me, because I always put like 2 words or a very short thing of text on the thumbnail, not very much. And then of course there's the title where it can be kind of long. But what I found out is basically like Google's AI algorithms can read text on thumbnails. My whole thing was always like, okay, here's what I did. Again, this is not probably something that matters to most of you, but it's a big deal for me. Keywords, right? You want to make sure that, like I said, anything that I do with Fusion tends to do pretty well because Google sees Fusion and they put me in there. But on this last video, I didn't say anything about Fusion in the title. I just said a technology that could change the world if it works. But I put Cold Fusion in the title of the thumbnail. So I was kind of testing what I just learned, which is that putting text in the thumbnail can actually be read by Google and will count towards like keyword stuff. And what I've been starting to do with my titles and thumbnails is like do a big tease kind of thing with the title and then put whatever the video is really about in the thumbnail. So it's like you have that teasing aspect, but then you also have like people know what the video is about before they click on it. And it's been working pretty well, and I think it worked really well yesterday. But I mean, the fact that Fusion stuff has always done well for me, and then I do a video about Fusion where I don't even put Fusion in the title, and it still performs well because I have it in the thumbnail. I don't know. It was just a learning experience. I think it may have learned something, so that's kind of cool. Andrew says, when I read about cold fusion, I feel so hopeful. And that's probably it. Um, yeah. No, I mean, I remember that whole fusion thing back in the day, but I didn't know what the science behind it was. So when I actually looked at it and I saw the whole palladium expanding and contracting with the different types of electricity applied to it, like that was interesting. And I was like, even if it works, whether it works or not, that's pretty clever, you know? I wouldn't have thought of that. But then you find out about all these different things that people can do, and that muon infused or muon catalyzed fusion, it does actually work, and it actually works at room temperature. It just costs more energy to do it than to get out of it, but maybe there's a solution there somewhere. Let's see. Is there a follow-up alien video with the Storm Area 51 people? Man, I don't know what to think of that. I mean, it is funny, and it is a nice, funny meme. I seriously doubt that hardly anybody's going to actually show up to do that. Just because you know how hard it is to get people together to do anything, much less, make a big fuss about alien stuff. Joshua was mentioning the Bob Lazar stuff. I actually did watch that Netflix documentary. And it's interesting. Look, I'm always flipping back and forth on the alien stuff. I grew up loving anything that had to do with aliens. That movie Fire in the Sky, just imprinted on me. And of course, I love the idea that there are other life forms out there, that we're not alone and all that. The idea that there's advanced civilizations we could learn things from. I like that. I love thinking about what it would mean and how it would change society if it became very obvious that there's other life in the universe. And just from a dramatic perspective, it's so tantalizing and it's so fun, I get it. I totally get it, but I still don't take it too seriously. I just can't. And like I said at the beginning of the cold fusion video, I've become a bit more of a skeptic over the years on that kind of stuff. It's like ghosts. I used to be really into ghosts, and I actually joined a ghost hunting group, and I never saw a thing. We spent nights in very creepy old abandoned homes that had all kinds of stories, and I never saw anything. So you can't say I didn't try. I definitely tried. But no, I remember reading about Bob Lazar way back in the day, way back in the 80s when all that stuff was going on. And I was big into it at the time. And I saw the documentary, and it's some of the stuff in there was pretty neat about how he was talking about the hand scanner that they had there. And he described it back in the 80s, and then it came to life, or it became known and legitimized in the, early 2000s or something like that. And he was like, yeah, that's it. Yeah. And people were like, oh crap, he knew about that. He did know about a lot of things that only got really revealed later. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting stuff, and it's definitely compelling for sure. Joshua, I won't make fun of you for feeling like the dude seems legit. He does seem legit. He definitely does. And that's what makes the whole thing so tantalizing. But I don't know. Sean is saying the HHO fuel theory would be a good video. I don't know what that is. Explain yourself, sir. Oh, okay, so Alan's saying he worked at the Nevada Test Range Area 51. See, I'm sitting here just jabbering about it, and he's sitting there talking about how he actually worked there. No aliens, just lots of aviation nerds. Sorry, I got to read through these comments now because you guys got a thing going on here. Yeah, okay, so this is the last thing that Alan just put there, because they would have to be advanced in order to get to Earth. Dumb aliens wouldn't be able to find us. Yeah, in order for a life form, this is where my skepticism comes from. The first video that really took off on my channel was on the Fermi paradox. And God, Isaac Arthur's talked about it a million different ways, and so has Jean-Michel Codier. And ultimately, what it all comes down to for me is just that space is really freaking huge. It's just so insane, the distances between just stars. I mean, the fastest thing we've ever created would take 50,000 years to get to the closest star. And yes, there's technologies that we haven't tried, and there's light sails, and there's, warp drive potentially. And but the point is, for an alien civilization to cross all that space to get here, they would have to have some kind of technology that we can't even fathom. So they would be so far beyond us that the question becomes, why would they even come here? What interest would they have in us? They have nothing they can learn from us, other than just to look at us like we're in a zoo or something. And maybe that's a good enough reason. But then I'm like, but why would you? I've never been to the Dallas Zoo, and it's like 5 miles away. Would I travel 27 light years and spend all that energy and technology just to go watch somebody? I mean, I don't know. Would we do that? I don't know. The thing about the aliens situation is that you can't help but inevitably get pulled into conspiracy thinking, and that is always the big hang up for me. As soon as I see that something is wrapped up in conspiracies, as soon as it requires thousands of people around the world to be coordinating at the highest levels of every government in the world to keep this quiet, I'm just like, yeah, that's just not something that happens in this day and age. I'm sorry. Again, I live my life looking at things as potentialities and as probabilities, and the probability that it's just something we're misinterpreting that we don't understand versus a worldwide global conspiracy involving thousands of people in the highest levels of government, I'm going to lean with this one. The probability is higher that we're just seeing something that doesn't make sense to us. And anytime you have anecdotal evidence over any kind of data, is that kind of thing too. And I always thought that in the day when literally everybody is carrying a phone, or I'm sorry, carrying a video camera around with them, that we would start seeing these things a lot more often. And I don't feel like we are, really. I felt like there would be an explosion of this stuff. And there are some channels out there where you can find stuff like that. But anyway, moving on. Victoria says it's kind of sad. We'll probably never know what's out there. It's true. You break the water with electricity and then feed the hydrogen and oxygen in the engine block before. Oh, okay. I see what we're talking about. Okay. So that's from Sean. That's the whole thing about basically running a car on water. Yeah. Again, you're talking about the guy getting murdered when his patent filings were going on. That creeps into some territory I'm not comfortable with, but I do know what you're talking about, and I've always wondered that too. I wonder if it is just an energy in and out thing. Does it cost more energy to split the water with electrolysis to get the hydrogen to run the car, or do you spend more energy than you get out of it, kind of thing? I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. I could. Josh is asking, have you thought about an interview with PBS Spacetime Matt or Elon on OLF? Well, okay, so it's a good question. So, since I was gone last week, for those who follow Our Ludicrous Future, I did an interview with Christian from Launchpad Astronomy, which it was one of these things that he had reached out to me because his channel's growing. He's got about 25,000 subscribers, something like that. And he's doing well. He's doing fine. But he's definitely at that place where he wants to make sure he's doing everything right and all that. And he saw kind of where I've been and where I am now and wanted to get some advice from me. So anyway, he had reached out to sort of just do a chat and kind of talk with each other. And it just sort of happened to coincide with me needing to get somebody for OLF to do an interview. because the deal is like there's Ben and there's Tim and I, and we all have our own YouTube channels. We all got busy lives. Tim travels all the time, and it felt like every single week we were like rescheduling, and every time you reschedule, you got to move something else out of the way, and it just sorry, my voice is cracking up. It was just becoming this whole thing. So when I knew that I wasn't going to be around at the time that they wanted to record, I was like, tell you what, why don't I just interview somebody and you guys can stick that in there, because we've had a million people asking for a million different interviews that we could, have people on the podcast and stuff. And I thought this might be a good chance to sort of test that out. And so, the stars aligned, and I got Christian to do that little interview with me. And it was only after we started doing the interview that I realized that he had done really cool stuff. He had worked on Hubble and, he worked on Hubble, for crying out loud. So I was just like, wow, it became a whole fun conversation. But anyway, that was sort of like a test just to see if people would be cool with having an extra person on there and interviewing that person and getting their perspective on things. So I would like to see us get somebody else on there. Keeping in mind right now, our Ludicrous Future has like 20,000 subscribers, so it's still a pretty small channel. So getting a big YouTuber like Matt from Spacetime or some big celebrity like Elon on there is probably still a long shot. Although Tim seems to be best buds with Elon these days, so who knows? Although I know that Elon hates the... what did I do the video on that? Space-based solar power. He hates space-based solar power. And I made sure and put that in the video, but still people on Twitter were like tagging him and like, hey, Joe Scott covered this thing that you hate. And I'm just like, great. I'm now on his shit list, I'm sure. But obviously it would be the coup of all coups to get Elon on our podcast and ask him questions and stuff. But I'm not holding my breath for that one. That might be fun. But yay, looking at the tech, not the guy. It might be a good video. Oh, okay. Alan says, OLF is excellent. I love and support both of those other channels, but I wish Tim would let you talk more. He sometimes steps in to talk about stuff that you're probably the expert on. He's definitely more enthusiastic about jumping in and talking about things. So the one that we did before this last one, where the other two were together, that was very challenging for me. It would have been challenging simply for the fact that those two were in a room together and were clearly just able to chat, and I was like way off over here, hey guys. But on top of that, there was like a 2 or 3 second delay. So I would start talking, and they would just kind of keep talking, and then be like, what? Oh, yeah. And then they would respond to me, and then they would talk. What do you, oh, yeah. So it was so uncomfortable, and I just kind of stayed quiet during that one. And I think somebody commented about it on that video, and I was like, yeah, I'm not somebody that likes to interrupt people anyway, but at least if you're like on even footing, I'm okay with it. Like I can jump in if there's a joke that I need to get out or something. But everything was just like the timing was all off, and that one just didn't work very well. Tim is definitely a very enthusiastic talker, and he kind of jumps in with stuff, and that's okay. It's all right. It doesn't bother me too much. Back in the 90s, I worked on a deformable mirror for Hubble. Oh, interesting. That's Troy. Is that the one that wound up on there, or was that just like a project that was part of it and then didn't wind up being used? The deformable mirror. I don't know if that's what's on there now or not, but can you get the founder of Abley Gamers channel charity? They do look at tech to help people. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I never heard of it. Abley. Probably not saying that right. Anyway, So we're coming up on an hour. I know this is kind of short, but I do plan on doing other live streams this week, like I said before. But as a Patreon and members exclusive live stream, you get the chance to kind of bring up stuff from videos. I mean, I could pull up recent videos. Sorry, hang on a sec. Okay, so there was like the bringing back the woolly mammoth thing, the Carrington event, solar sail or solar space solar stuff, the EV batteries thing, the Second Life EV batteries. If you have any questions on any of those, by the way, I did get a lot of corrections on the Cold Fusion video in the comments about like. I guess the amount of energy that comes out of some of these fusion reactions. Like always, you know, I put links to my sources down in the description. I got them from somewhere. I didn't just make them up. So if I always just point people down there, it's like just look at the links in the description. That's where I got it. I could probably be a little better about organizing my links and putting like footnotes and stuff like that. That's a lot. That's a lot of work though. It's just too much work. I would rather just come on here and make jokes and have people laugh and just whatever. If I'm seeming a little out of it, I apologize. I still got a little bit of travel loopiness. It was for JPL and it was a design concept, says Troy. So I'm assuming, to correct for distortions in imaging, I'm assuming that didn't actually wind up in the actual Hubble. I mean, it's very cool either way. It's super cool. I'm dancing around the lactating men vid. No, I'm not. I mentioned it earlier. I'm all about lactating men. I've always been all about lactating men. Hang on. So somebody asked about. Sawyer was asking about how was Europe. I can talk about that for a second. I did something really lame on TMI where I just basically did a slideshow of pictures that I took when I kind of just broke it down and it wound up going for like an hour. I really liked it there. Athens was cool. Traffic was insane. Of course, I always I was talking to Alex from Low Spec Gamer at this thing over the weekend. Another guy who never shows his face, but he's from Spain, so he's got a very thick Spanish accent. It's terrible. But he had spent some time in Greece, so we were talking about that and how I was staying at the city center of Athens, which is of course very touristy and everything. But he was like, "Yeah, the rest of Athens isn't really like that," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So I got to see tourist areas of Greece, so that's really what I'm talking about. But it was very beautiful. It was very hot. The food was spectacular. I did not expect to like the food so much. I'm not really a food kind of guy, like a foodie kind of person. But usually whenever I travel overseas, of course I want to eat the local food and I want to have the real thing while I'm there. But usually after about a week or so, I'm just like, you know what? I just want to eat. I just want a burger at this point, But I don't know. I just really like the food there. I never got tired of it. Like the very last day that we were there, I was like pounding euros into my face, or euros, while I still could. So, no, I really enjoyed it there. And Santorini was just ridiculously gorgeous. And of course, for a nerd like me, Santorini, for those who don't know, it's basically a volcanic island that blew up about 3,400 years ago, and now it's just sort of like a crescent shape island with a caldera in the middle that's all filled in with ocean and whatnot. But it was this insane experience of being able to stand on the edge of this caldera and just look out and just imagining that there was an explosion that literally blew this island apart 3,400 years ago and wiped out multiple civilizations. Like it wiped out the Minoan civilization on Crete, like hundreds of miles away, and there were civilizations living on that island, which is actually called Thera, that they still don't really know what happened to them. They don't think they were killed there. They think they got out in time, but they don't know where they went, and they don't really know much about their culture or where it came from. They're kind of a total mystery, and it's just like, wow, it's nuts. It's just nuts. It's just nuts to stand there and just think about how big of an explosion that would have had to have been to do that. You just stand there in awe of it, and that's what I spent most of my time doing. So Russell's saying, what inspired me to do the lactating men video? I mean, it literally, I don't even remember what I was researching. I don't know. It might have been the one about the woolly mammoths, like reconstructing the woolly mammoths. I got on some genetics thing, and it just like, I saw that you could, that there are men who can lactate, and I was like, what? And it's just one of those things. And maybe I was just a little bit loopy one night, and I just went down a rabbit hole, but I just found the whole thing disturbing and fascinating, and next thing you know, I'm writing a video about it. It just happened. Every once in a while I run across something that just catches me in the moment, like as so interesting that I just start writing it. I just start writing the script without any real plan behind it, and then later it just becomes something. So Earshot wanted to know the story behind it. Well, there you go. It's really not that interesting. I just ran across something. I was like, okay. So Sawyer's saying he worked on a human-machine interface in his PhD, but Neuralink didn't hire him. Well, that sucks. I went on their page earlier, and it's just nothing but job listings. So maybe there's a new one? I don't know how long ago you did that. Alan says this is the first chat in which he's ever felt like the dumbest guy. Don't feel bad, Alan. I'm always the dumbest guy here. Read my comments, you'll know. Greek opinions on refugees. I didn't hear any, but then everybody was like doing the whole, oh, you're the tourist paying me money. Oh, I'm going to be really nice to you and not bring up politics. I didn't hear anything about it, honestly. I was trying to relax, so I didn't really get into geopolitical stuff. Oh, and Victoria's talking about the outdoor bed outside. Yeah. Well, the room that we stayed in had like a, I mean, you could call it a bench outside the room, but it was like a bed. It was like this outdoor bed that you could just kind of like lay in and look out over the volcano. It was, I spent so much time there, just sitting there reading and drinking. I drank a lot. And it was kind of like being on a cruise ship. Like there was a guy in a uniform that would just walk by. He's like, can I get you anything? Would you like some food? Do you want a drink? And I'm like, okay, I'll have a drink. You know, it's very easy to get drunk when you literally just go like this and somebody puts a drink in your hand. Ian mentioned that they put Alan Turing on the new $50 note. I saw that. That's really cool. I don't know how often do they, I said $50, £50 note. How often do they change the notes in Britain? I've always been curious about that. They don't change American money for anything except for quarters. They put different things on the quarters all the time. But, and I guess pennies, they started putting a different back on the penny. But, my God, like, could you imagine if they've changed up the $100 bill to make it more, counterfeit proof and stuff. But like, if they just decided to put like Harriet Tubman on the $100 bill or something, like, I think that'd be cool, but it would never happen. Say more about that room in the... Oh, the counter... Yeah. How do you pronounce that anyway? Here it is. I still got it right here. No, that's not it. Hang on. I've got the little thing for... Condoriotis. The Condoriotis house. Yeah. Man, that was weird. That was super weird. So, for anybody who didn't watch this particular slideshow that I put on about my Greek trip, that was in Hydra, which is spelled Hydra, like Hail Hydra. I'm so mad at myself that I didn't get a picture of me in front of a sign for Idra and saying like "Hail Hydra." Can't believe I didn't do that. Anyway, um, Idra was like this port city or port island uh, that served a big. They were a naval station during the Greek Civil War with the Ottoman Empire back in the early 1800s. Anyway, um, it's a really cool island. They don't allow any cars on it, so everything is done on donkeys. So they call it Donkey Island sometimes. Um, but anyway, no, there's this one house, the Lazaros Condoriotis, yeah, mansion. This dude was like a pivotal person back then. I think he was like a wealthy merchant that like funded a lot of stuff, and he wasn't like a general or anything, but he made a lot of the stuff that the army did possible. Anyway, it was a tour of his house, and it was this really old house. And you go down into the basement, and there's like these big, there's a big loom where they like made textiles and stuff. There was a big oven that was like fire underneath, and I mean, it was just like it's this really old house, but it was beautiful and very Game of Thrones ish at some places, where like you stand there and you look and there's columns and you look out over the ocean and it's just like, oh, King's Landing. But there was this one room that was roped off, so I couldn't actually go into it. But it was a white room, like all the rooms were painted white, and it was like sort of like stucco, adobe kind of looking. It had these two windows, and they were facing the ocean. So like through the windows, it's like the lower half is blue and the upper half is white from the clouds. So it was just like this perfect, lining up thing. And there was at the end of the room, there's like this square couch kind of thing, like a sectional that went all the way around. And in the middle was a table, and I want to say there was a hookah on it or something like that. And they did have like a little display over here for like some clothing, which didn't really have anything to do with the room. But I don't know why, man. I was walking through and I'm like, this is cool. And I just stopped at that room, and I was like, I just had the craziest sense of deja vu. And it just kind of felt like, I don't know. And seriously, I probably saw something like that in like an Architectural Digest magazine somewhere along the way or something. I'm sure that's all it is. But I just found myself just standing there, to the point that my wife was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "There is something about this room that I just can't stop looking at it." It just got this like emotional feeling, like I was home or something. It was crazy, but it was beautiful. And I took a picture of it, and it didn't do it justice because I didn't get you couldn't see through the windows. The windows were blown out in the picture, so it just kind of looked like a room in the picture. But there was something about standing there just totally grabbed me, and just I felt like this wave of emotion about it. It was really weird. I don't know. I can't explain it. Let's see what else we got. Yeah. All right, so Earshot saying that he's the guy who asked the cabbie about his thoughts on personal freedoms versus security in the age of modern terrorism. And it works out about as often as you'd expect. That's funny. Okay, so Troy just said something about let's have an Answers with Joe outing in Greece. We just need a sponsor. Funny you should say that, because I was considering that. I talked to somebody at VidCon this last week who is kind of a community manager for the Super Carlin Brothers, if you know who that is. And we got started talking. She was talking about Discord, actually. And she was like, "How much are you using Discord?" I'm like, "Oh, God, I feel like an old man whenever I get in there and I don't understand it. And not very many people really use it. And I just... And she started like hammering at me about, you need to be using Discord, you need to be active in there, and you need to be building community for this, that, and the other. And she basically talked about how like around this Super Carlin Brothers channel, which has a lot more subscribers than I do, but like I pulled up my Patreon thing for her on my phone, and she was like, "You have the same number of Patreons that we do." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But they do all kinds of crazy stuff. They literally like have planned trips together and taken outings and gone places. And I was just like, that would be awesome. But I was like they went to Washington DC for like some, nothing political, like for like a fun run or something like that. I don't know. They went out there for something. And I was like, so it was like a meetup in Washington D.C. So like just people from D.C. She was like, oh no, they flew from all over the country. She was like, I live in Missouri, and I was like, what? Like people were flying in from everywhere to do a thing together, and she was like, yeah, and I was just kind of like, I wonder if we could make something like that happen. Like there's cool places out there that, like Meteor Crater in Arizona, I've always wanted to go to. Like maybe that's something that we could all put together or something. Like that's something I've been thinking about, honestly, is whether or not you guys would be interested in something like that. So Sean's saying Tim's Discord is too large, that it's overwhelming. Yeah, that's how I feel when I get on it. But anyway, I mean, like I've been thinking about doing community stuff like that. And you guys are the crowd for it because you're Patreon. So let me know what you think. All right, so you're talking about going to Boca Chica, sky watching, yeah. Some buddies of mine, we were talking about just the three of us going out to, I think it's in Big Bend National Park. It's way out West Texas, but it's like a dark sky area where you can actually like see the stars. McDonnell Observatory is there. Actually, It's Okay to Be Smart just did a video about that, but yeah, sky watching expedition. Okay, well, let's talk about it. I mean, we can bring it up in Discord. I may actually create a separate channel just for people to kind of talk about gatherings and stuff like that. Alan lives in Dallas. See, I need to just set up a Dallas meetup or something. I know there's plenty of people here who've been wanting to get together, and I just never really have the time to like meet with people specifically. But I need to definitely do that. I need to get on that stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I might bring on like a community manager person to sort of like make that their job to kind of organize stuff, because clearly that's not my strong suit. But anyway, so why don't we leave it on that? Why don't we leave it on that question to you guys, and you can put comments in Discord. By the way, if you're not using Discord, you can comment on here or somewhere and ask about how to get on there. I'm going to try to use it a little bit more. I'm going to try to facilitate some more conversations around that, because it is a good platform for that kind of thing. And seeing what other people have been able to do with it, it just feels like I could be getting a lot more stuff out of it. So how about we try that? New member, welcome, Jace Curtis. You came in right at the very end. I'm kind of wrapping this up. So let's see. So Victoria's talking about dark sky kind of thing. Sky watching. You guys like a sky watching thing? All right, cool. Maybe least time at the observatory, says Troy. Maybe. I mean, yeah, if we have enough people interested, it's possible. Or if you want, we could all get together and storm Area 51, because apparently that's the thing to do. Heyo, let's end it with that one. Okay. All right. Well, so thanks you guys. Yes, and welcome Jason there, as Troy's doing. I'm going to go ahead and try to wrap this up. I do have another one coming, not this coming Saturday, but the following Saturday. That'll be a morning one. So this was my whiskey live stream, and my ice is all melted. That's okay. And the next one will be the coffee live stream, which I always have coffee, so it's just a live stream for me. But anyway, tell you what, guys, let me kind of put an end to this, and I want to thank you guys for being here, and I hope you got something out of this. If you have any suggestions for live streams in the future, things that we can be talking about, things that we could do on here, I am very much up for doing it. And these are your live streams, so let's make sure you get something out of it and keep it coming back for more. Okay, so with that, I think I'm gonna wrap this up. And where's the thing? There's the thing. Okay. Thanks a bunch, you guys. I can't do all this without you. It really means a lot. And I guess I will catch you next time. Love you guys. Take care.